Alright, you guys would have been hanging out to see a little bit more of this, no doubt. It is raining today, so please excuse that. And I don't have a gimbal on my phone, so this is all done by hand. So all the shaking and everything, that's just me being unable to hold the little phone as nicely as some can. So I'll give you a quick squiz around it like this. Then I will attempt to fill you in on some of the details. So let's try this pause function on the phone. Might be slightly better at it than my first couple of videos I've smashed up. Alright, we'll start at the back. This is the bit that generally drops jaws a little bit. So that sitting in there, that is a VQ35DE plus turbos, so plus TT. It's out of a 350Z or a Skyline GT, 350 GT, along those lines. So cylinder heads, same. It's a rear wheel drive configuration block. So the first incarnation of this car, we had a front wheel drive configuration block. And the difference is the bell housing pattern, oil filter location, and a couple of mount positions on the block. So we had to swap all the internals from that block into this block. So this is our Eagle rods, our Wiseco 11:1 pistons, our ARP head and main studs, and that sort of carry on, Cometic head gaskets, etc. So and then we when I say we, it's my wife and I, but I do all the work. So I reconfigured the intercooler to position that a little bit nicer. It's not perfect, it could actually be slightly better. We've not got a lot of room under the harness bar, so I wanted to make the intercooler integrated with the inlet manifold, but that was very difficult. It's feasible, it could be done, but it was very tricky. Much easier to do it like that. It's a separate unit, easier to deal with. If something goes wrong with it, comes out easier, etc. So we've got our CAN lambda there and our little link module that runs that. So that runs through the CAN system, so just a couple of wires to make that go. When you set it up, we've got some race line camber plates in the top there that have been drilled to suit those strut towers, custom strut towers. That's a 350Z manual limited slip diff with the mounts pressed out and aluminium bushes fitted in there instead. And you can see there's a significant torque plate that runs across that holds the front of the engine. There's 3 bolts up in there. It also holds the diff tangle that ties all that all together as one unit. And so the alternator sits down there. And as you can see, this is our axle line here. When you look at it from up top, you see where the axle line, the engine's quite far forward. So this is how we've got our 50-50 weight distribution. Had to put a window in this year because it'll change your regs super lap, but that's all good. Right, we'll head around to the front. Yeah, so in here we've got a small little battery that is normally sold to run alarm systems and such, but it does the job fine. Turns over the big 3.5 litre V6 with no trouble at all. We've actually got the factory pedal box in this car with the factory booster on there, and then it's a master cylinder from, I think it might have been a Pathfinder or something along those lines. Now it is over braked, and the pedal is very, very sensitive. It's very hard to drive it. If you get on the brakes too quickly, it will just lock up. So we need to do something with that. We'll put a aftermarket pedal box or change the compound in the brake pads to give them a little bit less bite. So that's I think it might be a 350 GT Skyline radiator, and then it's been heavily modified to do what I needed to do here. Obviously a custom fan shroud in there and 2 12-inch spell fans, and that cools the engine. And then down in here, which is a bit harder to see, let's go through that hole there. That core that you can see there, that's horizontal, is the intercooler core. So that's a radiator that I cut up and modified to do that job. We've got relays there. They run water pump, so there's the PWM pulse width modulation relay there, the one with the fins on top of it. That's for the water pump for the engine. Then there's a fan to run, a relay to run a fan. There's a relay to run pump for the intercooler system. So, and we've made this brace up here and added some extra strength and behind everywhere where you can't see to make sure the front struts don't blow to pieces with all the extra load on them. Yeah, so in here, this is Party Central. It's the happy place. We've got OMP seats, OMP steering wheel, Woodward steering column, Link Dash 2 Pro. That does tells you everything you need to know there. Obviously there's a dash windscreen bar there to hold the brackets. I've made a custom bracket to hold the Dash 2 Pro, so there's a plate in behind that's attached to that block that gives you adjustability in all manner of directions. There's a little bit of sound dampening material on the tunnel there, just because the transfer box is quite noisy. We expected that. We can deal with it. That just tones it down a little bit, so you can drive around the pits without having earmuffs in, basically. It does have a hydraulic handbrake in it, although it's not set up to operate just the rear wheels. If you pull that on, it will brake to the rear wheels, but because there's no centre diff, it will affect all four wheels, so you can't do handbrake slides. It's really just for loading and unloading the car off the trailer, parking it on hills, or that oh shit moment when you stand on the pedal and it goes to the floor. At least you got something else to try. Pull that lever and see whether that does anything. It might not, but you've got something to give a go, you know. So that's a factory micro dash. The top of it's been flocked by Mike Shaw fiberglass in Hamilton, as with the door cards. They're very nice, holding up very nicely after all the use it's had. I will pull out the front part of the dash, this bit here that you can see, and I'll get that flocked as well, but that's just me. That's not Mike holding it up, that's just me. I haven't taken it out and given it to him, so we'll get around to that. Cool, so you have to excuse the checker plate. We'll do something nicer with that one day when we do a pedal box, and we'll put a dead pedal in as per Steve Millen's suggestion. So let's go have a look underneath. Yeah, so we'll start at the back. That's our what we'll call a blown diffuser. So you can see the staining where the exhaust gases are running up the diffuser there. It's the two tailpipes. There's the sump that's just exposed at the front there. It sits a little bit lower than what I wanted by about 5 or 10 millimeters, so I just gave it some clearance there, and it also allows a bit of surface air to run over it and give it some cooling. This hasn't been CAD designed or CFD'd or anything on the computer. It's just the basics. The angles are about right, you know. It's not a full flat bottom floor yet. It will still have some effect, just not perfect, you know, not ideal. So we'll start here and we'll look in there. What we've got is 14-inch brake rotors from Z1 Motorsports with Zanoli hats that were designed by the lad and drawn up by Zanoli and fabricated by him. 370Z Akebono calipers, custom made by myself, chromoly arms, adjustable every possible way you can think of. RSR coilovers, King springs. There's a massive subframe in here. Very hard to see it. It's all roll cage tubing basically. And then turbocharger, one living there, so very low down. We initially thought we had a little bit of an issue with draining oil from the right hand side. It doesn't actually appear to be too much of a problem. There's a lot of stuff fitted underneath a very small car, so we've got a very large gearbox here which we'd like to upgrade one day to sequential, but time, money, etc. There's a very large prop shaft that has to run through. It has to come under the passenger seat we wanted to retain that so we could give you guys rides, so yeah, we've left that in there. We've got a fuel system living here on top of this massive plate, couple of filters, pre-filters and post-filters, just to avoid any issues there. And our lovely transfer box, it was drawn up by myself, it was machined by Kimberley Tool Design. Cogs in Tauranga cut the gears, AH gears in Auckland ground them to keep the noise in check. And all of this is still very much in prototype stage. As you can see, there's a lot of metal, it doesn't have paint on it. I'm not sure if you can see much in there. That's a 350Z diff in the front as well. And then we've got axles from, I think they were a Fuga. It just happened to just bolt straight in. So it's a wonderful thing with Nissans, you can be building something that's just crazy, never meant to exist. Go to your local wrecker, Nissan King, Isuzu Parts Wheel, grab a couple of components off the shelf and bolt them into your car. Pretty awesome. Yeah, it was a fluke, but hey, good story anyway, right? So yeah, as per the rear, these are chromoly arms and adjustable camber plates at the top, so we can adjust everything, every direction within reason. We're still running the factory chassis rails. Bit hard to see those. Everything is still there as far as the frontal structure, except for a little piece of tin that goes around the headlight there. We just needed a bit more clearance for these great big Nexon wheels and DTM Nexon tyres, DTM wheels. So yeah, let me have a little think and I'll come back to you. I'm sure there's more. Yeah, there's heaps more. So here's our front splitter. Now this is actually made from signboard, and someone made a comment. Well, a lot of people made comments about that over the years on Facebook, etc. It's had a bit of a beating here and there. A few of these screws have got the top missing off them, or it's bottomed out at Leadfoot or at the racetrack or whatever. So the basic principle of this is the same as every other splitter. Execution is just done with a budget in mind. So we've got some Savage Performance and Spears splitter rods to hold it all together, and then just a simple signboard. I can do a pull-up off that if I want to, but it is a composite material. It's aluminium sheet laminated over plastic sheet. It's quite heavy. We can do that out of carbon fibre and save quite a lot of weight, but that's fine for fit for purpose. You know, if I have an off and I bash that into something hard and it breaks, it's $80 for another sheet, so that'll be good. Right, okay, I'll stop yakking because you guys have been listening to it for ages, and I might update you some more later on when we do some changes.